Hi everybody, welcome back to Graceful Art Designs. Today I'm going to do another tree painting, and I have two acrylic pours which I have next to each other here. I'm trying to decide which one I should use. I like this one simply because it's got kind of leaf shapes within the bigger leaves in gold inside the pink, and so that's quite interesting. But then this one has more colours, more fall colours, and I like that one. I'm not worried about the background. I can use most of the colours in the bloom for the leaves and the tree. And it can be a big oak tree with different branches, or two oak trees side by side, sort of joining together. And so I think I'm going to choose this one, but I'll keep that one just as a pour in the meantime. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to sketch in the oak tree with an acrylic marker pen, and bearing in mind I'm going to make it bigger than it actually has to be, so I can just save as much of the original acrylic pour as possible. And it's a blue-green marker, so I will be able to see it clearly when I do paint away the part that I don't want to keep. And you won't see the top of the tree, it's sort of going into the sky. I'm making a close-up view of the tree so that I can make the leaves as large as possible. So it can be quite a thick trunk here, incorporating most of this lower bloom and then another one next to it. And it'll look better once I add the paint, obviously. But because, well, oak trees, they come in all varieties, and they also have leaves of all different varieties, of shapes and sizes. So I want to be able to incorporate some of this colour in the bloom blowout into the leaves, and the only way I can do that is by making the leaves quite large. If they're small, you're just not going to see them, and so depending again on the type of oak leaves, some are kind of heart-shaped with a serrated edge, some are more of a kind of a maple-shaped leaf, and so it's quite hard to try and make one. In fact, there's not much going to be left here for the leaves, so I'm going to have to think this out just for a minute. I'm trying to explain my thought processes here. So here I've drawn 1, 2, 3 trees, and this tree is a shorter one in the distance behind this one, and but because of the way they're laid out, the branches are all kind of intertwined. I haven't drawn on the leaves yet. As I was saying, the oak tree has many different leaves, and one of the kind that I like is kind of an oval shape, almost like a rose leaf with a serrated edge. But they're very tiny, and in proportion to the tree, you're not going to really see that much detail. So I'm not going to be drawing a lot of leaves, because anyway, this is an autumn tree, a fall tree, and so you're going to just see some outlines of leaves here and there. But I'm not going to do that with the marker pen, only with the paintbrush. So I'll come back when I have my paint ready. I'm going to be using a large brush to begin with, size 24 again, and my lovely autumny mixture that I used before, which is burnt sienna and kind of a deep purple. no, it's a magenta rose, quinacridone rose, one of those. And so in this painting, I want to preserve as much of the blowout as possible inside the trees and inside the leaves. So it's not going to be, I'm not going to be painting inside the trees, unlike I did in my previous painting, where I couldn't decide whether to keep the trees or the leaves or the background. This one I made up my mind beforehand that I would be painting the outlines and preserving as much of the actual original blowout as possible. And then I will paint away what I don't want to keep in these colors. So it will form, these colors will form the background over the pink, which will look nice because it will also cover some of the design, the blowout that I won't be using. But what's nice about it is that it will go over the pink. It will, because it's translucent, the pink underneath it will look quite nice. So as you can see, I'm just using large strokes, and then I will use my wet wipe quickly while it's still wet to just wipe away where I think I've made the outline too thick on the inside of the tree. I want it on the outside. Although it's not critical, I mean, it's all wide enough. And so this tree is kind of going there. And this one will be going into the horizon. And this will just be a branch coming off. And as with the pigeons, I won't be covering over the marks of the, where there were botanical design marks. That will form part of the actual trees. And where I could use them, I did. Like here, there's some branches hanging down. That's a lovely colour. It just happens to be inside the tree. Just the way it goes. And then, what did I do here? This was another branch coming out of this tree. And this is part of this tree. Sometimes it's hard to remember one's own designs. And I'm sitting down on a low chair in front of this tall painting. So this branch can either come over or under. We'll let this one go over. And so I now have some more paint on my palette, and I'm going to just use a mixture of the purple and the rose and cover some of the background. I won't do all of it right now, but just in between the trees here where there may not be so many leaves, just so that I have a clear direction, sense of direction of where I'm going. I'm regretting that marker pen now, but too late, she cried. So, as I keep saying, that the reason I do this is to utilize the lovely backgrounds of the blowouts. But I hope there's no misunderstanding. I don't use other people's blowouts. I use my own blowouts. To use someone else's blowout would be, copyright infringement, because then I would be using something that someone else had painted as part of my painting, and that's certainly not what I'm doing. And the reason I'm just mentioning that is because I recently saw a video posted on YouTube where it was captioned repurposing a thrift store canvas. Well, the first thought that came to my mind is it might be from a thrift store, and it might be old, and it might be dirty and full of dust and whatever, and no one wants it, but still it's something that might have someone else's name on it and someone else has painted it, and you can't go utilising it and then make out as though it's your own, even if you do only preserve part of it. But then it looked like it was hard to say what she did in the beginning. It was kind of, the steps were kind of edited out, I don't know, but it looked like she completely covered over the entire canvas. In which case, I don't know why she went and bought a canvas from a thrift store, because you might as well go and buy a new cheap canvas and start from fresh if you are going to cover it. If you've got your own old painting that's at home and you've had it for years and you know there's no artist's name on it and you're going to cover it over, well, fine. Or even if you're going to, I don't know, if you're going to leave part of it exposed, then it could still be open to copyright. Unless it's something that, you know, your grandmother painted and left you and no one cares. So one just has to think about these things before you go capturing something like that on YouTube. But whatever I repurpose, it's my own paintings. Many of them you can see my name on the bottom or it's on the back. In the case of these acrylic pours, I put my name on the back because I thought it kind of ruins them to put your name on the front. So anyway, that's just my 5 cents worth for today. I'm mixing the colours here a bit for the background. I couldn't leave the marker pen, so I wiped it away with a wet wipe, and I've managed to remove most of it. But some I didn't try, I just left where I thought it's not going to matter significantly. Like here I removed it because I just didn't want this tree following that path. So I want that branch going there, and I wanted this branch to be more curved, and I've also thought that maybe I don't have to leave these translucent colours. Maybe I could use more opaque colours. So I have very few translucent colours, and although these do blend in with the colour of the blowout, continue to wipe away where I didn't like the colours, and so I made the trunk of this tree a lot wider, and that allowed me to keep these lovely turquoisey bits and here as well. I kept as much of it as I could in the tree. Some I had to cover over. Well, I didn't have to, I could have, but in order to make the tree clear, I kind of had to. So there I've got some. What I'm doing now is I'm using the magenta to make the leaves, and I'm just making leaf outlines with a serrated edge if possible, like that, but it's not so easy. So I'm just making a big oval like that. I suppose I could do it differently. Let me see where there's space to try a different style. So here, does that look better or does that look better? And they'll get smaller and smaller here because there isn't a lot of the colour. I don't want to really use the pink. It's not not very meaningful. Anyway, so I'll keep trying and see what works.